morning, everyone. Listen, today has been a wild Wednesday, but thank you for tuning in this morning for Wealth Building Wednesday. Wealth Building Wednesday is a live broadcast that broadcasts every single Wednesday at 10 o'clock a.m. Central Standard Time on the Facebook pages of the Black Belt Community Foundation and the Selma Center for Nonviolence. These two nonprofit organizations come together for a very unique collaboration known as TRHT Selma. TRHT stands for Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation. This program, TRHT Selma, is supported by the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, which is an international organization dedicated to leveling the playing field and promoting equity across all aspects of life. And as many of you all, if you have been a consistent viewer of Wealth Building Wednesday, you know this face very well. Our guest is Miss Sandy Hesley. She is a certified credit counselor with a very reputable organization called Lifelines Counseling. And credit is not the only thing they offer. Credit counseling is not the only thing that they offer, but credit counseling is definitely something that relates to all of us who are seeking to build and develop generational wealth. So, good morning, good morning, good morning,
Good
Miss Hesley. Welcome
morning.
back.
Always happy to be here.
And we are always glad to have you. You are such a reliable resource. When I tell you the information, people are constantly reaching out. They either watch us live on Facebook or they watch us or hear us on WBFZ Z105 and like, hey, wait a minute, who's that lady? Is she in Selma? Like, no, she's not in Selma, but she definitely services our area. Can
Yes.
you give those folks who may be tuning in for the very first time just a little intro about Lifelines Counseling and what you offer and how to get in touch with you?
Well, we service, like you said, we try and service the whole person. It's like an umbrella. And you got these different entities under. You got Family Counseling Center that assists people with, anger management, children that need counseling when their parents are going through a divorce, things like that. Then we got 211, which people call in when they need assistance with like rental assistance, utilities, homeless prevention, things of that nature. And then they come to us, credit counseling, when they need help. The biggest thing that we do is the home buying process. Assist people with their first time home buying purchase. We do credit counseling. We have debt management program that we can help you with if you're trying to get back on track and your debt has gotten a little bit unsecured debt has gotten a little bit out of hand. We can try and help you get on track. So we do just a myriad of things to help the whole person. And it is all, led by I call her our fearless leader, Chandra Brown, who is the executive director.
Yes, absolutely. And you have some awesome leadership and the insight and the foresight actually that
Yes.
it took to understand that counseling is not just one aspect of a person,
Mm-mm.
working with the whole person. So a family could literally come in, children, mom, dad could come in, and everybody's receiving a different type of counseling, but it's all in one location. So
Exactly.
novel idea and awesome approach to making sure
Mm-hmm.
that our community is well served.
Mm-hmm.
So today, though, we are focusing on credit. You have given some amazing information and helped us gain some insight around how to better improve, build, and repair our personal credit. So we want to thank you for the time you've already spent with us. But this morning, we are diving into some like really serious everyday things
Mm-hmm.
that we see happening all the time, whether we want to talk about it or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's important for us to discover how we can create some better habits around
Yes.
credit.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things I know that we kind of talked about and need to help folks understand is why TRHT Selma, and why anyone would be concerned with credit when it comes to wealth creation. And you started talking about this during our last opportunity together. So if you missed it, you can still check out the live video. It is housed on the Black Belt Community Foundation Facebook page and the Selma Center for Nonviolence Facebook page. She was with us on October 20th and talked about, near the end of the broadcast, you started talking about the impact that credit has on wealth creation. So how does our credit actually impact our ability to create generational wealth?
I try to keep it, real simple. Something that my pastor says. He says sometimes we put too much batter on the fish.
All right.
We forget what the fish tastes like. You got to go through all this batter. So I try and keep things real simple. And basically, with building wealth and credit, what you have to keep in mind is that when you take on this debt, when you incur this debt, credit card debt, whatever, the debt increases a person's liabilities. So you got money going towards debt instead of money trying to go towards assets that's going to grow your money, or money going towards investments that's going to grow your money. So when you get into debt, you look at increasing your liabilities. But in my opinion, debt is inevitable. Now, I didn't say a lot of debt.
Right.
I just said some debt is inevitable. So you are going to have to, incur some debt. But if your credit is good, you have access to the better interest rates, the better terms. So that's why it's important to, keep track of your credit, keep a good credit history, a good credit score, because that's going to give you access to the better rates. That's how it impacts your wealth. Then you pay the better rates, the lower interest rates, the lower payments. That frees up your money. So really, to keep it simple, just make sure that that you are making more money than you spend, and you avoid as much debt as you can, and that you invest your money wisely.
All right, now. Those are three things that we can definitely all relate to and understand. We want to take the batter off that fish. Listen, and interest rates matter, y'all.
Yes.
When it comes to buying a house, a car, or anything, when you look and review your interest rates, if you end up paying 10% on a mortgage, that is thousands of dollars that could have been saved every year. For a car, right? Yeah. If you're looking at 10% interest, that's a lot of money over the lifetime, and you will still be paying for the car and then trying to buy a new engine. Look.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
So when it comes to like some of the habits that we should have, are there some habits that you can directly point to say that we really need to make sure that we're doing this if we're going to build or maintain good credit scores?
Pay your bills on time.
Okay.
The number one thing, pay your bills on time. Avoid maxing out credit. If you have a credit card, do not max it out. Avoid maxing it out. Because what you want to do is you want to manage your debt to income ratio. You don't want to have all of this debt and this little bit of income. You want to build an emergency fund. That is so important. Try and build an emergency fund so when things come up, they don't catch you unawares. And you have a resource to go to, which is your emergency fund. Monitor your credit report to make sure that everything on it is kosher, to make sure that nothing's out of order. And if it is, you can address it immediately before it does some serious damage. And something that my mom presented to me years ago when I was living with her and I wanted to move out on my own. She said, I tell you what, figure out how much, what kind of rent you're going to be paying and pay that to me for 3 months. If you can do that comfortably, then you're ready to move out on your own. If you are going to incur a debt, like let's say you want to buy a new car, there are all kinds of calculators that you can access online. You can go in there figure out what kind of car you want to get, how much it's going to cost, all of that, input that, then pay yourself that into a savings for 3 or 4 months. If you can do that comfortably, you're ready to buy that car. If you're
Okay.
struggling, you're not ready to buy that car. And I remember when I bought my last car, I went and researched. I called my insurance company. How much is my insurance going to increase? With
Mm-hmm.
that maintenance, what kind of maintenance is on this car? You look at all of that, and if you can afford it, then you go for it. But the biggest thing is practice. Practice making payments. Make payments to yourself. What's the worst thing that can happen? You will have saved up that money at the end of 3 or 4 months. You got extra money in your savings. So those are some things that you can do to make sure that you are, that you're keeping your credit in line.
Well, now you have dropped some golden nuggets. And when I tell you that if you are watching this live on Facebook and you have any comments or questions, you want to get in the amen corner, you can drop your comments right in the comment section on this video. We will definitely get your question to Miss Hesley. She is encouraging us to manage our debt to income ratio. That means that we need to be making sure that we spend less than what's coming in. Build that emergency fund. Y'all, we never know. Water heaters
Yeah.
explode. We have cars that break down, all sorts of stuff that can just pop up out of nowhere. Build that emergency fund bit by bit. Every paycheck, pay yourself first. Well, after you tithe, because tithing works for me.
Yes, it
Listen,
does.
after you
Mhm.
tithe, pay yourself first. And listen, pay them people. If you have been out here using credit cards, if you know you have accumulated debt related to a medical expense, student loans, I have heard so many conversations around, and we've actually talked about student loans.
Mhm.
But if you know you went to college and got a degree, pay them people.
And if you didn't get the degree and you stop, you still owe them.
Right. If you get exactly. So if you were in the classroom, it's gonna help to just
Mhm.
pay because it's a positive credit to you. Right.
Yes.
So it's and
Mhm.
especially like student loans, those for some of us, that's the oldest debt that we have because we started
Exactly.
accumulating it when we
Mhm.
were like 18 years old.
Mhm.
So pay them people. Okay, monitor your credit report. Annualcreditreport.com is a great resource for you to every single year download your credit report, review that thing. Let's not max out those credit cards. Listen, I was taking notes and I dropped them in the chat. So if you're wondering where's she getting that from, she memorized all of that. I was typing it so we can all go back and refer to these golden nuggets that Miss Hesley is dropping for us today. So now we want to ask some practical questions, right? We've talked about some of the things we can do as far as the habits, but what about some real life stuff like child support? If someone owes us child support, does that impact their credit? Like how does child support or does that even matter when it comes to our credit score?
Only if, only if you're late on your child support payments.
Okay.
Only if you skip out and don't pay. That is the only way that it will affect your credit report. Child support accounts, if they're never late, they're not going to show up on your credit report.
Okay.
They only show up if you're late or skip out and you don't pay. That's
So
the
now I know that may be news to some folks.
Mhm.
That child support is actually a debt that can be that can show up on your credit. Are there other hidden debts that folks really don't think about too often and that can actually impact our credit scores?
Um, Not really. I mean, believe it or not, creditors have the option to report to the credit bureau.
Okay.
Majority of them do, don't get me wrong, but you'd be surprised some of them don't. And like with this one, like with child support per se,
Hmm.
it just doesn't affect your score only if you don't pay it. And then we're going to get into like the payday loans and things like that.
Right.
Same thing falls with that. People think that all of this stuff shows up, but it only shows up if you don't pay it.
Oh wow. So now we do have a question about payday loans. So is there a situation you said so they have the option about whether they are going to report the absence of payments for something like a payday loan?
No, the creditors, some creditors, and I think we discussed this a couple of sessions back.
Mm-hmm.
Creditors, the only time with people like this, like the child support payday loans, the only time that they're going to really report to the credit bureau is if it's negative.
Okay.
If you skip out, if you don't pay, things like that. That's the only time that they're going to pay. They have that option. Some people think that, especially with payday loans, especially if you're paying them like you're supposed to, you think you're building credit. Mm-mm. The only way that they'll report it is if you don't pay them.
Wow. So hopefully that's a bit of information that can help folks who have had to or have felt like they had to use payday loans in order to make ends meet.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really important for folks to know and to just make a mental note of that, that even if
Mm-hmm.
you're paying them on time, it's up to them whether they're reporting or
Mm-hmm.
not, whether you're paying
Mm-hmm.
on time. They
Yeah.
will hit you. Listen, they say bad news travels fast. They
Yeah.
will hit you when
Exactly.
you don't pay.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
when you do pay, that's not going to be positively reflected on your credit. So now,
Mm-hmm.
what about things like divorce? Right. Unfortunately, we have families that the partners separate.
Mm-hmm.
So, what happens in cases of divorce? Does that impact our credit?
Yes. You know, it's already a really. Some people look at divorce like death.
Hmm.
It's the death of a relationship. And what you have to realize is that accounts that are joint like that, they're reported under each person's name, period. So if you're listed as a joint owner, co-signer, authorized signer, you got to deal with that. It's best to deal with that debt before the divorce. A
Mm.
lot of people think that because we went to court and he got to pay out them credit cards, they own him. No, boo boo, they own you too. Because the lender does not have anything to do with that divorce decree. That that agreement, that arrangement that you made with that lender, with that credit card company,
Hmm.
that's what stands. Now, in the event that it's listed in the divorce decree and they renege on it, then you have to follow up separately. You see what I'm saying? To get your money back from that ex-spouse. You see what I'm saying? You might have recourse in court, but as far as that credit card company, I'm just gonna say Capital One. As far as
Hmm.
Capital One is concerned, both of y'all are responsible for that debt. If he's supposed to pay it and he not paying, they're gonna come at you. Period, point blank. So it's best to try and resolve them prior to the divorce. If he's responsible, see if he'll go ahead and get it, in his name only. Do a refi. It could be a loan, secure, a loan, installment loan. It could be a car. See if he can go ahead and get that refinance into his name and get it out of your name. That way you're not responsible. But if that debt is joint and y'all go to court and they say he responsible for this and you responsible for this,
Hmm.
either party, if they renege on it, that other party is responsible. And then, a lot of times if you try and keep things cordial between the two of y'all, you might be able to work it out. And, that's a whole nother issue.
Right.
But we ain't gonna get into that. But it's best to have it converted to an individual account.
Okay.
That's the best way to handle it because both of you are responsible.
Okay. Now, listen, she is dropping nuggets for us today, golden nuggets that prayerfully these topics that we're bringing up, the questions that we have before us today will be a benefit to folks, who maybe because life happens,
It
right?
happens.
Divorces
Mm-hmm.
happen, bankruptcy. Listen, because that's our next question. These things happen. There are
Mm-hmm.
times when we just can't pay those people, right? We
Mm-hmm.
can't pay the people that we owe. But
Mm-hmm.
getting back on track is a necessity as we work towards building wealth. So now the B word, bankruptcy. How does that impact our credit? How long does that stay on our report and how is there a way to get around that when it comes to trying to restore our credit?
Bankruptcy stays on your credit for at least 7 years.
Okay.
And like you said, some things are inevitable. No, don't be shame.
Right.
Don't go around carrying shame and guilt, because the thing of it is that you're trying to, basically, you went the legal way to get help with trying to,
Right.
rein it in and get some control. So kudos to you for that.
Yes.
But just keep in mind that you pay a hefty price for it, because it stays on your credit report for at least 7 years. But once you get discharged, and I can only speak from like the mortgage side, dealing with the, because we help a lot of people that go through that. And that's the first question that they ask. And with a lot of lenders, they want to see at least 2 years of steady payments, of rebuilding, and they'll consider, lending you money for like a mortgage for a home purchase.
Okay.
So it's life after that. It's not like it's over with, and I'm not going to be able to get a house, for 7 years. You may go through bankruptcy for 2-3 years. Your term may be 2 or 3 years, but 2 years after that, when you're rebuilding yourself, reestablishing your credit, just make sure that everything is clean for those next 2 years. And 90% of the time, you'll be able to get a mortgage after that.
Okay. Now that is good to know. And I'm so glad that you're being optimistic, and the fact that bankruptcy is actually a financial tool put into place to give us the power to start again.
Yeah.
Every single day that we wake up, right, and we have another breath that we can breathe,
Yeah.
that's an opportunity to start again.
Yes.
Start again, right? So bankruptcy is really just a tool created to allow us to start over. So it's nothing to be ashamed of. I mean, divorce is nothing to be ashamed of, right? If you tried all you could to make it work, just understand, you have your ducks in a row. Try to make sure that that debt is dealt with before the signing of those documents, and we're going to move on.
Yeah.
We are going to build wealth come heck or high water.
Yeah.
Listen. So what about now foreclosures? Because now you talked about mortgages, and when it comes to bankruptcies, are foreclosures viewed any differently when it comes to trying to rehabilitate and try to have that fresh start and get into a new mortgage?
No, it's pretty much the same. One thing that I found out though, and this just popped up in my research, because I do a lot of research, that foreclosures can drop your score by as much as 100 points.
Wow.
That's huge. That is huge. So keep that in mind. And sometimes foreclosures are inevitable, along with bankruptcy. It is what it is. But it can drop your score by as much as 100, and it's going to have the same negative impact on your credit as the bankruptcy. It can stay on there up to 7 years. So the important part, what that is, after 2 years, again, if you show steady payments, if you show that you've been rebuilding your credit, keep everything clean, you still may be able to, get loans, make another purchase or what have you, a home purchase or something like that, but give it at least 2 years. And I think that's part of the problem that I've seen. A lot of people that come to us when they've gone through that, and mainly just bankruptcy, they're thinking, oh, I've been out, I just got discharged, and I'm ready. No, you got to show them that you're ready. You got to show them that you learned from the past and you've reestablished yourself. So that's the big thing.
So we have a question from our audience. Bankruptcies are definitely a hot topic. And we have the question around, what is the difference between Chapter 7, Chapter 11, and Chapter 13 bankruptcies?
I just know about Chapter 7 and Chapter 13. Those are the only ones that I can really speak on.
Okay.
Chapter 13, that is when you pull them together and you get a plan to pay your creditors back.
Okay.
Chapter 7 is when you just do away with everything. You don't have to pay anybody. You're just relieved of those debts. There are certain criteria that you have to meet, and I have that written down because we studied that. I don't have that in front of me, but
Okay.
those are the two main differences. The 7, you just get your slate wiped clean. 13, you pay it back. They just come with, develop a plan for you to be able to comfortably pay everybody back.
And we do have a viewer who has said that chapter 11 is actually used for businesses. So now when we hear about people like our former president, and other folks who have filed for bankruptcy over and over and over again, not really using it as a tool to restart or refresh, but just using it as a tool to be financially, well, I guess restart, financially sound. But you're talking about millions of dollars. That's the type of bankruptcy that Trump and others have used in the past to make sure that they um, try to stay afloat. That's chapter 11. So
Mhm.
chapter 7, what she said, that's the total, you're relieved of all debt
Mhm.
obligation. Chapter 13, there's a plan associated with paying back that debt. And chapter 11 is generally used for businesses. So
Mhm.
great information. Thanks for that question. Y'all, again, just want to encourage everyone to share this video. Ms. Hesley is dropping some golden nuggets for us again today, talking about debt, credit, and practical things, right? So
Mhm.
now we have another question. We have a question from the audience. Can you file bankruptcy for student loans?
You're gonna have to pay those back.
Okay.
When you file and if you have student loans and you file chapter 13, you're protected during that period. You see what I'm saying? Where they can't garnish your wages or anything like that. But when it's over, they're still there and you have to pay them.
Okay. Excellent question. And thank you to our audience members who are chiming in, asking questions. Y'all, please feel free to share this information. If you are watching and you didn't take notes, or you're listening, say at work, right? And you didn't take notes, always know that you can hear the live rebroadcast of this show on WBFZ 105.3. Okay. And we have just a few more minutes. We have a lot more questions to get to. So we always got to have you back. But just really quickly, we had a lively conversation at the end of, like, after we went off. We talked about this issue of co-signing.
Mm-mm.
Now, what do the people need to do with co-signing when it when it comes to making sure that our credit scores stay high?
Don't do it. If you want to protect your relationship with people, I just say avoid it.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. I mean, if you insist on doing it, it's got to be somebody that you know well. And if you insist on doing it, you better act like the bank.
Mm-hmm.
Keep up with them. Make sure that you review the agreement. If they're making the payments, make sure that you're logged into that bank where you can get alerts when a payment is made. You can get
Ah.
alerts when the payment is due. Get alerts when the payment is made. Um, Create your own contract with them. If you default on this, you agree to do blah blah blah. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it's so much that goes into it. Then you have to think, if I got to do all that, do I really want to do this to preserve our relationship and for me to keep my inner peace? And then for me to
Yes.
stay out of jail and not have to go and use my sock drawer money,
Right.
we just not gonna do it. So just be a realist about it. Some people have the best intentions. They
Yeah.
have every intention of paying their debt, and life happens.
Right.
And then they can't pay it. And then you're stuck with it. Don't think that because they're the primary or whatever, that relieves you. No, you're just as responsible as they are. It factors into your debt to income, all of that. So when you look at co-signing for somebody, that just say that's your debt.
Mm-hmm.
That is
And
your
think
debt.
about your financial future, right? Because if you're looking to buy a house or a car,
It goes
that
on
stuff is
your
going
debt
to
to
show up.
income. Yeah,
Yes,
it's gonna go into your debt to income. So do
exactly.
you really want to do that?
Right.
So to me, to keep the peace, don't do it.
Just don't do it. Look,
Don't do
well, Miss Hesley, we have had 30 minutes well spent. It seems like bankruptcy is a really hot topic. We're going to have you back again to not just cover bankruptcy, but to also dive into these other issues around building and maintaining credit. We are super, super excited that folks are engaged in this conversation.
it.
Please, if you're watching, if you're listening, if you've heard about Wealth Building Wednesday, go back and check out the old videos. Listen, it's not, it may, the videos may be old, but the information may be new to you.
Mm-hmm.
So please make sure that you're taking notes. Get a notebook, honey, because we go through a lot of great information. So again, I do want to thank you, Miss Hesley, for joining us for another Wealth Building Wednesday. We're going to have you back. We're going to talk about bankruptcy and all of these other things that are dealing with how we can help ourselves to have great credit and to build wealth. So,
Always a pleasure.
yes, ma'am. So, for our listeners and our viewing audience, always remember Wealth Building Wednesday broadcast live on Facebook, the Black Belt Community Foundation Facebook page, as well as the Selma Center for Nonviolence Facebook page, 10 o'clock Central Standard Time, right here. We have Wealth Building Wednesday. Then it rebroadcasts, the audio rebroadcasts at 1:30 p.m. Central Standard Time on our media partner, WBFZ 105.3 FM radio, all across the Black Belt, y'all. Until next Wednesday, let's get to building this wealth. Y'all have a great weekend.
Bye, y'all.